This morning, I woke up early. The room was quiet. Soft sunlight came through the curtain. I could hear birds singing outside. The air was cool and fresh. I opened the window, and the street below was calm. A woman was sweeping in front of her house. A boy was riding a small red bicycle, and a dog barked once and ran across the road. Everything looked clean and new. It was a beautiful morning. I smiled and went to the kitchen. I filled the kettle with water and turned it on. While waiting, I looked around. My small plant had 2 new leaves. It made me happy to see it growing. The water started to boil, so I made a cup of coffee and toasted some bread. The warm, nice smell of coffee filled the room. I sat down and took my first sip. The taste was simple, but perfect. I didn't use my phone or turn on the TV. I just listened to the quiet sound of the morning. It felt calm, like time was moving slowly. After breakfast, I changed my clothes and went outside. The air felt clean on my face. The sky was light blue with soft white clouds. I walked down the street near my home. A man was washing his car. He smiled and said, "Good morning." I smiled back, "Good morning." His little dog ran in circles beside him, looking so happy. I passed a small bakery. The door was open, and the smell of fresh bread came out. It smelled so good that I had to go inside. "Good morning," said the woman behind the counter. "Good morning," I replied. "It smells amazing in here." She laughed. "That's the smell of a good day," she said. I smiled. "Then I'll take one." She gave me a warm croissant in a paper bag. "Have a nice morning," she said kindly. "You too," I said. Outside, I opened the bag and took a bite. The croissant was soft and buttery, just melted in my mouth. Sometimes, happiness is very simple. I walked to a small park nearby. It was quiet and green. An old man was reading a newspaper. A young couple sat close together, smiling, and a woman was walking her dog. The trees moved gently in the wind. It was a beautiful scene. I sat under a big tree and finished my croissant. The sunlight came through the leaves above me, making soft, moving shadows on the ground. A little boy ran by, chasing a blue ball. The ball rolled near my feet. I picked it up and gave it to him. "Here you go," I said. He smiled and said, "Thank you." His laughter made the morning even brighter. I looked around and thought, maybe this is what peace feels like. I stayed in the park for a while. The breeze was gentle and the air smelled like grass. People walked slowly. Everyone seemed relaxed. The city felt calm, like it was breathing quietly. After some time, I stood up and walked home. The street was busier. No more people, more cars, more sound. But inside, I still felt calm. At the corner, I saw the same boy with the red bicycle again. He waved at me and smiled. I waved back. It was just a small moment, but it made me happy. When I reached home, I opened the door and whispered, "Thank you for this beautiful morning. Thank you for joining me on this peaceful morning walk." If you enjoyed this moment of calm, please like this video and subscribe to the channel for more stories like this. See you next time. Good morning, everyone, and welcome back. After a lovely breakfast this morning, I decided to take a stroll to the small park near my home. It's not a grand, sprawling place, but it's one of my favorite spots. The air there is always so fresh, and the sound of birdsong just melts away any stress. As I walked along the street, the weather was just perfect. a clear blue sky with a sun that was warm but gentle. There weren't many cars out yet, and I caught that wonderful smell of fresh bread from the corner bakery, just like yesterday. A man on a motorbike zipped by, and he actually smiled and waved. It's funny how a small gesture like that can brighten your morning, so I waved right back. When I got to the park's gate, I paused for a moment. The trees stood so tall and green, and I could hear the leaves rustling in the wind. It was beautifully calm and quiet, with only a few people scattered about. I walked in, following a little path covered with small brown stones. On one side there were wooden benches, and on the other, a small clear lake reflecting the trees. Near the lake, an old man was feeding bread to a flock of white pigeons gathered at his feet. He caught my eye and smiled. "Good morning," he said warmly. "Good morning," I replied. He gestured towards the birds. "They come every day. They know me," I smiled back. "They look very happy." He let out a soft laugh. "Yes, maybe they like my bread." I found a spot on a bench near him, the wood already warm from the sun. Just sat there, looking at the lake, not saying a word. The gentle sound of the water and the wind created this soft, natural music. It was so peaceful. Just then, a little girl ran past with her mother, clutching a yellow balloon. She let out a squeal of laughter as the balloon almost slipped from her grasp. Her mother quickly caught it and handed it back. "Thank you, Mommy," she chirped before running off again. The old man smiled. "Children always make the park feel young." I nodded in agreement. "Yes, they make everything more alive." After a little while, the old man said his goodbyes and slowly walked away. I stayed on the bench, watching the sunlight filter through the branches, creating dancing bright spots on the ground. It almost looked like the earth was breathing. No, it was just the wind, but the feeling was magical. I pulled out my phone and snapped a quick picture of the lake. I like to collect photos of these quiet places. They're like little reminders of calm that I can look at on a busy day. Then, a small boy with a red toy car toddled over to me. He looked up with big, curious eyes and asked, "Do you like cars?" I couldn't help but smile. "Yes, I do." "That's a nice one." He proudly showed me the car. "It's fast," he declared, pushing it along the ground where it rolled right to my bench. He scooped it up and ran back to his father. It's amazing how these small, simple interactions can bring so much joy. I decided to wander to the other side of the park where there's a small coffee stand. I ordered a cup of warm milk tea and found another bench near some flower beds, bursting with yellow and white blooms. A few butterflies were fluttering around them, and the air smelled so sweet. As I took a small sip of my tea, I just observed the world around me. An old woman was knitting a scarf, a couple was taking photos by the trees, and two boys were playing with a ball. Everything and everyone seemed to be moving in this peaceful, unhurried rhythm. It really made me think about how lucky I am to live so close to a place like this. It might be small, but it has everything you need for a moment of peace. Trees, sunlight, quiet moments, and the simple smiles of strangers. It's a great reminder that sometimes you don't need to travel far to find peace. It's often just around the corner, waiting for you. After about an hour, I finished my tea. The sky was a little brighter, the birdsong a little softer, but it was time to head home. I walked back along the same street, smelling the same bread, feeling the same warm sun. But somehow, everything felt even nicer. Maybe it wasn't the park that had changed. Maybe it was me. When I got home, I looked at the clock. It was still early, with the whole day ahead. I smiled to myself and thought, maybe I'll come back to the park again tomorrow. Thank you for joining me on this quiet morning walk. I hope it brought a little bit of peace to your day as well. If you enjoyed this, please consider liking this video and subscribing for more episodes. I'll see you in the next one.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to Read and Speak English. I'm happy you're here with me today. Let's enjoy another simple story together. This morning felt a little different. The air was cool, and the sunlight came softly through the curtain. I opened my eyes slowly and stayed in bed for a moment, listening to the quiet sounds of the house. Somewhere outside, a bird was singing. It was a calm, gentle sound, the kind that makes you want to take a slow, deep breath. I got up, stretched my arms, and walked to the kitchen. Everything looked simple and familiar. The table, the small window, the cups on the shelf. But this morning, I wanted to do something new. For the first time, I decided to make coffee. On the counter was a small glass jar of coffee powder. It had been sitting there for weeks, unopened. I took it in my hands, opened the lid, and smelled it. The scent was rich and deep, a little bitter, but nice. It made me think of quiet mornings and warm cafes. I filled the kettle with water and turned it on. While waiting, I looked around the kitchen. The sunlight touched the table, making small golden lines on the surface. A small plant by the window moved gently in the morning breeze. Everything felt still and peaceful. The kettle began to hum. Tiny bubbles formed inside, then burst softly. When the water boiled, I turned it off and poured it slowly into the cup. The hot water touched the coffee powder, and steam rose into the air. The smell became stronger, filling the room. I closed my eyes and took a deep breath. It was my first time making coffee, so I didn't really know what to expect. I took a small sip. The taste was bitter, sharp, and warm. It surprised me a little. Not bad, just strong. I added a spoon of sugar, then a bit of milk. The dark brown turned to a soft caramel color. I stirred it gently and tried again. This time it was smoother, a little sweet, a little creamy, perfect for me. I smiled to myself. This was my first cup of coffee. It wasn't made by a machine or bought from a cafe. It was made by me. Simple, quiet, and real. I carried the cup to the small table by the window. Outside, the street was just waking up. A few motorbikes passed by, their sounds fading into the distance. An old woman was sweeping in front of her house. A man opened his shop, arranging fresh bread in neat rows. Two students walked by, laughing softly as they talked. I watched them through the window, holding my cup with both hands. It felt warm and alive. Each sip felt slower, calmer, like time itself was stretching gently. I didn't look at my phone or turn on the TV. I just sat there listening to the world. Soft footsteps, distant voices, the whisper of the wind. The coffee was half gone now. The taste stayed in my mouth, bitter and sweet at the same time. It reminded me that simple things can be enough. You don't need much to feel happy. Sometimes, just one quiet morning is enough. I looked at the empty cup for a moment. It wasn't just coffee. It was a small memory, my first step into something new. I thought about how many people start their day like this. A cup of coffee, a deep breath, and a thought to carry through the day. I washed the cup carefully, feeling grateful for this small moment. Then I opened the kitchen window. The air outside was fresher now, filled with the scent of morning and the sound of life beginning again. A bird flew past, landing on a nearby tree. I watched it hop from branch to branch, singing a short, happy tune. It made me smile again. Before leaving the kitchen, I looked at the small coffee jar on the counter. Half full now, waiting for tomorrow. I gently closed the lid and said softly, See you again in the morning." Then I walked back to my room. The sun was brighter now, painting warm colors on the walls. I sat on my bed for a moment, still feeling the warmth of the cup in my hands, even though it was gone. There was something peaceful about it, something new but familiar. It wasn't about the coffee anymore. It was about how mornings can begin, quietly, with something simple that makes you smile. I looked out the window one more time. The world was moving, cars, people, voices. But inside, everything felt still. I realized that happiness isn't always loud or big. Sometimes, it's just the sound of boiling water, the smell of coffee, and the feeling that today might be a good day. So I took a deep breath, stood up, and whispered to myself, "I think I'll make another cup tomorrow." Thank you for joining me on this quiet moment. I hope this story brought a little peace to your day. If you enjoyed it, please like this video and subscribe for more stories. I'll see you in the next episode.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to Daily English Stories and Podcasts. I'm happy to see you again today. Let's take a quiet and simple walk together to my school. Every morning I wake up when the sky is still light blue. The air feels cool and fresh, and the sound of birds comes softly through the window. Sunlight touches the wall near my bed, and I know it's time to start the day. I get up slowly, wash my face, brush my teeth, and put on my school uniform, a white shirt and blue trousers. Then I check my backpack, books, notebooks, and my small pencil case are all inside. Everything is ready. In the kitchen, my mother is preparing breakfast. I can smell rice, eggs, and warm tea. My father reads the newspaper quietly, and my little sister sits beside him drinking milk. We eat together, say a few words, and smile. The morning always feels calm and warm in our small house. After breakfast, I say goodbye to my parents and step outside. The air is cool, and the sun is just starting to rise over the rooftops. I begin my walk to school. It takes about 15 minutes, and I like every part of it. At the corner of the street, a woman sells sticky rice and warm corn. Steam rises from her basket, and the smell makes me feel hungry again. She waves and says, "Good morning." I smile and reply, "Good morning, Auntie." I walk along a small road lined with tall green trees. The wind moves softly through the leaves, and the sunlight falls in small spots on the ground. I like the way the shadows dance when I walk. Sometimes a few leaves fall, and I watch them glide down slowly. I pass by a small bakery. The smell of fresh bread fills the air. Sometimes I stop to buy one piece, and the baker always smiles and says, "Running late again." I laugh and answer, "Just a little." He wraps the bread quickly and says, "Have a nice day." I thank him and walk on, eating the warm bread slowly. A little further, I walk along a small lake. The water is calm and shiny under the morning light. A few ducks swim near the edge, and an old man sits quietly with a fishing rod. Always smiles when I pass by. The sound of birds, the soft wind, and the reflection of trees on the water make this part of my walk peaceful. When I reach the main road, it becomes busier. Motorbikes, cars, and bicycles move in both directions. I wait for the traffic light to turn green before crossing. Sometimes I meet my friends here, and we walk together for the last few minutes. We talk about homework, about what we ate for breakfast, and sometimes about the games we'll play after class. Walking with friends makes the road feel shorter and happier. Soon, I can see my school ahead. The blue gate stands tall with the name Sunrise Elementary School. The security guard waves and smiles as we walk in. Inside, the schoolyard is full of life. Some students play, some talk under the trees, and some read books quietly on the benches. I walk to my classroom, number 3. Our teacher, Ms. Lin, stands at the door, smiling at every student. She says, "Good morning." And we all reply, "Good morning, teacher." Her voice is soft but full of energy. I take my seat near the window. From there I can see the school garden with green plants and bright yellow flowers. The bell rings and the lesson begins. We study English, math, and science. Sometimes we read stories together, and sometimes we sing. The classroom is full of laughter and soft voices. I like learning new things. Every day brings something small but meaningful. At break time, my friends and I go to the yard. We sit under the big tree, sharing snacks and talking about funny things. One of my friends brings cookies from home, and we all take one. The sun shines through the leaves, and the breeze feels light on our faces. For a few minutes, everything feels simple and happy. When the bell rings again, we return to class for art. That's my favorite subject. We draw houses, trees, and people. Our teacher plays soft music while we draw, makes the classroom quiet and warm. She always walks around and says, "Beautiful work." Her kind words make us smile. At noon, the bell rings again. It's time to go home. The sun is bright, and students rush to the gate, laughing and waving goodbye. I pack my bag slowly and walk out. The guard nods and says, "See you tomorrow." I smile and reply, "See you." The road home feels warmer now. Shops are open, and the smell of food comes from small restaurants. I walk past the bakery again. The baker waves from the window, and I wave back. Everything looks familiar, but it still feels new every day. When I reach home, my mother is waiting by the door. She smiles and asks, "How was your day?" I tell her it was good. She laughs and says, "Come in, lunch is ready." The smell of rice and soup fills the air. I wash my hands, sit down, and feel happy to be home again. Walking to school every morning is a small part of my day, but it's one of the most peaceful moments I have. It helps me see the world slowly, the sky, the trees, the people, and the quiet beauty of a new morning. Thank you for listening to my story today. I hope you enjoyed walking to school with me. See you again in the next episode of Daily English Stories and Podcasts. Have a calm and happy day ahead. Hello there, my dear friend. I'm so glad you're here with me again today. Let us take a slow moment together, a small break from the constant noise of the world, and I'll tell you about something simple but very close to my heart. My favorite chair. It's not something new or shiny, it's not big or modern, but it has a quiet story, one that has grown with me through the years. In my living room, near the wide window, there stands an old wooden chair. It has been there for as long as I can remember. The wood is dark and smooth from years of use. The paint is a little faded on the arms, worn away by countless hands that have rested there. When I look closely, I can see the tiny marks, a few scratches here, a few dents there. Signs of time passing slowly, like gentle whispers. The chair doesn't move easily anymore. It's settled into its spot, a silent guardian of this corner of the room. When I sit down, it creaks softly, as if it takes a small breath with me. But I like that sound. It's the sound of something real, something that has stayed. It's a comforting groan, a familiar hello. It tells me that it knows my weight, my presence, and it welcomes me home once more. This chair was a gift from my grandfather. He wasn't a man of many words, but he showed his love through his hands. He was a carpenter, a craftsman who understood wood better than he understood people sometimes. I remember visiting his workshop as a child. Air was thick with the scent of sawdust and varnish, a smell I still associate with warmth and safety. He would let me watch him work, his strong, calloused hands moving with a grace that was almost magical. He could take a rough piece of timber and turn it into something beautiful, something with a soul. He made this chair for my grandmother when they were first married. He told me he wanted to make something that would hold her, something sturdy and reliable, just like his love for her. And it did. For years she sat in this chair, by this very window, knitting sweaters, reading books, or simply watching the world go by. I can almost see her there now, her silver hair catching the afternoon light, a gentle smile on her face. The armrests, worn smooth, are where her hands rested day after day. The slight dip in the seat is the impression she left, a permanent echo of her presence. When she passed, the chair fell silent for a while. It felt too big, too empty. But my grandfather, in his quiet way, moved it from their home to ours. He said, "She loved this chair. Now it can look after you." He never sat in it himself. For him, it was always hers. But he wanted it to continue its life, its purpose, wanted it to keep giving comfort. So, it became my chair. As a child, it was a mountain to be climbed, a fortress to defend. I would drape blankets over it to build a tent, imagining I was an explorer in a faraway land. The sturdy legs were pillars of a grand castle, and the high back was a throne from which I ruled my imaginary kingdom of stuffed animals and toy soldiers. The little scratches near the bottom, it's probably where my toy car crashed one too many times. That small, dark stain on the seat, likely a casualty of a spilled juice box during a secret mission. Each mark tells a story of childhood adventures, of a world seen through innocent, wondering eyes. As a teenager, this chair became my refuge. It was where I'd curl up with a book, escaping into other worlds when my own felt too confusing. The high back felt like a shield, protecting me from the pressures of school and the drama of growing up. I remember countless hours spent here, headphones on, listening to music that felt like it was written just for me. I cried in this chair after my first heartbreak, the solid wood a silent, unjudging companion. I scribbled in journals, pouring out my hopes and fears, the arm of the chair serving as a makeshift desk. It absorbed my teenage angst, my quiet rebellions, and my secret dreams, holding them all without a word. Now, as an adult, the chair serves a different purpose. It's my thinking spot. It's where I come in the early morning with a warm cup of tea to watch the sunrise paint the sky. The light streams through the window, illuminating the dust motes dancing in the air. And for a few moments, everything is still. This is where I plan my day, where I wrestle with difficult decisions, and where I find clarity amidst the chaos. When I feel overwhelmed, I return to this chair. I place my hands on the worn armrests, just as my grandmother did, and I close my eyes. I can almost feel the continuity, the thread connecting her life to mine. It's a grounding force, a tangible link to my roots. The chair has seen me through every phase of my life, has held me in joy and in sorrow. It's more than just a piece of furniture. It's a silent historian of my family, a keeper of memories. It holds the laughter of my childhood, the tears of my adolescence, and the quiet contemplation of my adulthood. It's a symbol of endurance, of love passed down through generations. In our fast-paced world, we are constantly encouraged to chase the new, the shiny, the upgraded. We discard the old without a second thought, always looking for the next best thing. But this chair teaches me a different lesson. It teaches me the beauty of things that last, things that bear the marks of time and use. It reminds me that value isn't always in newness, but in history, in connection, in the stories an object can tell. This chair is not perfect. It has flaws. The finish is worn, the joints creak, but its imperfections are what make it beautiful. They're a testament to its journey, to the life it has been a part of. It's a reminder that we, too, are shaped by our experiences. Our own scratches and dents, our own faded spots, are not signs of damage, but signs of a life fully lived. They are what give us character and depth. Sometimes friends come over, and they might overlook this simple wooden chair, their eyes drawn to more modern pieces in the room. But occasionally, someone will notice it. They'll run a hand over the smooth, dark wood and ask about it, and I get to tell its story. I get to share the legacy of my grandfather's hands, the memory of my grandmother's quiet grace, and the chapters of my own life that have unfolded within its embrace. In a way, this chair is the heart of my home. It's a steady, quiet presence that says, "You are safe here. You can rest." It doesn't demand anything. It simply offers its support, its history, its strength. And in its silent, sturdy way, it teaches me about what truly matters. Love that endures. The comfort of the familiar and the quiet beauty of a life well lived. So, the next time you see an old piece of furniture, maybe in a grandparent's home or a thrift store, take a closer look. See beyond the scratches and the faded paint. Imagine the stories it could tell, the hands that have touched it, the lives it has witnessed. There is a profound and quiet beauty in things that have been loved and used, a beauty that new things can never quite replicate. Thank you for spending this quiet moment with me, for letting me share this small, simple part of my world with you. It means a lot to me. If you enjoyed this little story, I'd be so grateful if you'd consider liking this video and subscribing to the channel for more quiet moments together. Until next time, take care and find the stories in the simple things around you. Hello there, my dear friend. I'm so happy you're here again today. Let's take a quiet moment together. Maybe you're listening while walking, or maybe you're sitting at home with a cup of tea. Wherever you are, I hope this story brings you a little warmth and peace. Today, I want to tell you about one of the most beautiful memories I have cooking with my mom. It's a small, simple thing, but it means so much to me. It was a Sunday morning. The house was quiet, and the sunlight came through the window. I could hear the soft sound of birds outside, and from the kitchen, the faint noise of plates and pans. My mom was already awake. She was always the first one to start her day. When I walked into the kitchen, she turned around with a gentle smile and said, "Good morning, sleepyhead. Are you hungry?" I nodded, still half asleep. The smell of garlic and onions was already in the air. It felt warm and familiar. The smell of home. She was wearing her light blue apron, the one she always used when cooking. Her hair was tied back, and she looked calm and happy. On the counter, I saw eggs, vegetables, and some rice left from last night. That could only mean one thing. We were going to make fried rice, my favorite. I loved watching my mom cook. Her hands moved fast but carefully. She never looked at a recipe or measured anything. She just knew how much salt, sugar, or soy sauce to add. When I was little, I thought she had magic powers. How could she make everything taste so perfect without reading a cookbook? But she always told me, cooking's not about numbers. It's about feeling. You taste, you smell, and you listen. At that time, I didn't really understand. But now, I do. She looked at me and said, "Come, help me cut these carrots." I hesitated. The knife looked sharp, and I didn't want to ruin anything. But she smiled and said softly, "Don't worry. Take your time." I started cutting slowly. The pieces were uneven, some too big, some too small. But she didn't say a word. She just watched me, and when I finished, she said, "Perfect." That made me feel proud, even if I knew they weren't perfect at all. Then she turned on the stove. The sound of the fire came alive, and she poured a little oil into the pan. It began to sizzle. The smell of garlic filled the room, and I could hear the soft crackle as she stirred. "Now the carrots," she said. I added them carefully, watching how they changed color. "Cooking is like life," she said quietly. "You wait, you watch, and you don't rush." I didn't understand it back then, but I still remember those words. After the vegetables came the eggs. She broke them into the pan with one hand, something I could never do. The sound of the eggs frying mixed with the smell of soy sauce. It was simple, but it made me so hungry. Finally, she added the rice. I loved that part. The rice made a soft, rhythmic sound as she stirred it around. She handed me the spatula and said, "Now you try." I was nervous again, but I took it. The handle felt warm in my hand. I moved it slowly, and some rice fell out of the pan. I looked up, expecting her to be angry, but she just laughed and said, "It's okay. It's how we learn." We cooked together for almost an hour. Sometimes we talked, sometimes we didn't. There was no noise, no rush, just the sound of food and the smell of warmth. It was a kind of peace that I didn't notice as a child, but now I miss it deeply. When the fried rice was done, she tasted it first. "Needs a little more soy sauce," she said, then added just a drop. She always knew exactly how much to use. I tried a spoonful. It was delicious, salty, sweet, and a little smoky from the pan. She smiled and said, "Good job. We make a good team." I still remember how happy I felt in that moment, like I had done something important. We sat down to eat together at the small wooden table near the window. The sunlight fell across the bowls, and the air smelled of garlic and rice. My dad came in, smiled, and said, "It smells amazing." My mom laughed and said, "Our little chef helped today." I felt proud again. For a long time after that, every Sunday became our cooking day. Sometimes we made soup, sometimes pancakes, sometimes fried noodles. It didn't matter what we cooked, it was always special. As I grew older, life became busier. I had school, friends, homework, and later work. I didn't spend as much time in the kitchen. But whenever I came home and smelled the familiar mix of oil, garlic, and rice, I felt like I was 10 years old again. My mom always welcomed me with the same smile and the same words. "Are you hungry?" One evening, I came home after a long, tiring day. I walked into the kitchen and found her cooking again. The same blue apron, the same calm face. I stood there watching her and she laughed. "Why are you just standing there? Come help me." I smiled and said, "I will." That evening, we cooked together again, just like old times. I realized how precious those moments were, the small, simple things that stay in your heart forever. Now, whenever I cook alone, I still hear her voice in my head. Taste it first. Not too much salt. Add a little sugar. Don't rush. I've made many mistakes in cooking. Burned rice, overcooked eggs, salty soup, but every time I remember her patience and her smile, and somehow everything feels right again. Cooking with my mom taught me more than just how to make food. It taught me how to care, how to listen, how to be patient. It taught me that love doesn't need big words or fancy gifts. Sometimes it's just a bowl of warm rice shared at a small table. That's love, pure and simple. Now every Sunday morning, I still cook fried rice. It's not exactly the same as hers, maybe a little different in taste, but it carries her spirit. The smell of garlic and onions in the pan always reminds me of her hands, her voice, and her calm eyes. Even when she's not beside me, she's there in every sound, every smell, every taste. Sometimes I imagine her watching me and saying, "See, you've learned well." And I smile because she's right. I did learn not just how to cook, but how to make moments that matter. Cooking with my mom was one of the simplest, happiest parts of my life. And even now, it's still one of the ways I feel close to her. When I cook, I remember her laughter, her gentle voice, and the warmth of our kitchen on a quiet Sunday morning. Thank you for spending this moment with me, my friend. I hope this story reminded you of someone you love. Maybe your mom, your dad, or a person who taught you something simple but important. If you can, cook with them again, or just say thank you. The small things we share often become the biggest memories later. Take care, and see you again soon in the next episode of Daily English Stories and Podcasts. Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to Daily English Stories and Podcasts. I'm happy to see you again. Today I want to tell you about my small room. It's not big, but it's full of warmth and quiet moments. It's the place where I read, write, rest, and dream. I live in a small room on the second floor of my house. When I first moved here, it was empty and silent. There were only 4 white walls, a window, and a floor with no furniture. But slowly, I started to make it mine. Now, it feels alive with small things that make me smile every day. There is a simple bed near the window. When I wake up, the first thing I see is the morning light coming through the curtain. Sometimes I can hear birds singing outside. The light is soft and warm. It makes me feel calm. My bed is small, but comfortable. I like white bed sheets and a light blanket. I always make my bed neatly every morning because it makes the room look clean. Next to my bed, there is a small desk. It's where I spend most of my time. On the desk, I keep my lamp, a few books, a notebook, and a small green plant. The lamp gives a soft yellow light that feels peaceful in the evening. The plant is my quiet friend. I water it every morning, and it grows slowly.
Hey.
Sometimes I talk to it softly, just to say good morning. My chair is simple too, made of wood. It creaks a little when I move, but I like the sound. When I sit down with a cup of tea, everything feels still. I look around my room and feel thankful. It's small, but it has everything I need. In the morning, my room smells fresh. I open the window and a light breeze comes in. The sunlight touches the floor and dust sparkles in the air. It feels like a new beginning every day. I sit at my desk with a warm cup of tea. I write down my thoughts or make a list of things to do. Sometimes I just look outside and listen to the world waking up. I hear a few motorbikes, a dog barking, and children walking to school. Those sounds make me feel connected to life. After breakfast, I often read a short story or a few pages from a book. Reading helps me learn new words and ideas. Sometimes I practice reading out loud in English. At first I felt shy about my voice, but now I like it. When I speak English in my small room, it feels like the walls are listening to me. I keep my words safe. In the afternoon, the light in my room changes. It becomes soft and golden. The air feels warmer, and the shadows on the wall move slowly. I love this time of day. It's quiet but alive. I often listen to calm music or study. Sometimes I draw or write a small note to myself. Each sound, the turning of a page, the soft tap of a pen feels gentle and real. My small room is quiet, but it's never lonely. It's full of memories. When I look around, I see the little things that make me happy. A photo on the wall, a candle on the shelf, a cup I bought at a market. Every object has a story. They remind me of moments I don't want to forget. When the evening comes, I close the window and turn on the lamp. The light makes the room glow softly. It feels warm like a hug. I sometimes make a cup of hot chocolate and sit on my bed. Outside, I can hear the city, cars, people, the sound of life. But inside, it's quiet. The world slows down here. I think about my day and write in my small diary. I write about simple things. A good meal, a funny story, a new word I learned. Writing helps me remember that life is made of small, beautiful moments. Even a short walk or a smile can make the day brighter. At night, my room becomes even quieter. I turn off the main light and leave only the small lamp on my desk. The soft glow fills the room. The air is cool. Sometimes I can hear the wind moving through the trees outside. Other times I hear rain tapping on the window. I love that sound. It makes my room feel even cozier. I lie down in bed and look at the ceiling. Everything feels peaceful. I take a deep breath and close my eyes. Before I sleep, I always whisper, "Thank you for today." It's a small habit, but it makes me feel calm and grateful. In that moment, I realize how lucky I am to have this small, quiet space. My small room has taught me many things. It has taught me that peace doesn't come from size or luxury. It comes from how you feel inside. Even a small room can hold big dreams. Even a quiet space can be full of life. Some people want large houses and beautiful furniture. I understand that. But for me, happiness is simple. It's waking up to sunlight, hearing soft music, reading a good story, and feeling safe. My room gives me all of that. When I clean my room, I feel lighter. When I open the window, I feel free. When I sit on my bed with a cup of tea, I feel complete. This is my world, small, simple, and peaceful. Sometimes I sit quietly and listen. There's the sound of the clock ticking, the wind moving, and my own breath. It's in these quiet moments that I understand life more clearly. I don't need much to be happy, just need time, space, and peace. I believe every person should have a small place like this, a place where they can rest, think, and dream. It could be a room, a desk, a garden, or even a corner by the window. What matters is how you feel when you are there. If it brings you peace, then it's your home. My small room is not perfect, but it's mine. It holds my books, my thoughts, and my hopes. It is where I laugh, rest, and grow. it is where I learned to love silence. And in that silence, I hear myself the most. Sometimes when I wake up early, I sit by the window and watch the sunrise. The sky slowly changes color from dark blue to soft pink to bright gold. The light touches my desk, my bed, and my hands. I smile. It's a new day, and I'm still here in my little world. Before I start my day, I always say, "Good morning, my small room." It's a funny habit, but it makes me happy. It's like saying hello to an old friend, because in many ways my room is my friend. It listens, it stays, and it keeps me safe. And when night comes again, I say goodnight. I turn off the light, close my eyes, and rest. Outside, the world keeps moving, but inside, everything is still. In that soft silence, I feel thankful for everything I have, for the roof above me, for the bed beneath me, and for the quiet heart inside me. So this is my small room, simple, clean, quiet, and full of peace. It's not just a place where I live, it's a place where I grow. Maybe one day when I move to a new place, I will still remember this room, the smell of morning tea, the sound of rain, and the warm light that made me feel at home. Thank you for spending this time with me. I hope you also have a small place where you feel calm and safe. Take care of it, and it will take care of you. See you in the next story, The Street Near My Home. Goodbye, my friends. Have a peaceful day and a quiet night. Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to Daily English Stories and Podcasts. I'm so happy you're here with me again today. Let's take a slow walk together down the little street near my home, a place that may look ordinary but holds some of the quietest and warmest moments of my life. I live in a small neighborhood not far from the city center. It's not fancy or modern, but it's full of calm mornings and familiar faces. Each house sits close to the next, as if people here need to stay connected, not by distance, but by everyday kindness. Every morning when I open my door, I see the narrow street stretching out ahead. It's not wide, two motorbikes barely fit side by side, but for me, this little street feels like a tiny world. It has its rhythm, its sounds, and its people, each one adding something gentle to the day. The air is cool in the morning. I can hear birds singing from the trees and sometimes a dog barking softly somewhere in the distance. The sun has not yet turned hot. It paints everything in a golden light that makes the world look softer. That's my favorite time to walk when the city hasn't fully woken up yet. There's an old street lamp near my gate. Its paint is faded, and sometimes it flickers at night, but in the early morning, it stands quietly, like a silent friend watching everyone begin their day. Across the street lives an old couple. They have been here for more than 30 years. Every morning, I see them sitting outside sharing tea and a few quiet words. Sometimes they don't talk at all. They just sit there, side by side, watching the world slowly pass by. I always greet them with a smile, and they always wave back. Their presence makes the street feel timeless. A few steps away, there's a breakfast stall. It's run by a woman in her 50s. Her hair's tied in a bun, and she moves quickly, like someone who's done this all her life. She sells noodles, sticky rice, and coffee. The smell of broth and fried shallots fills the air every morning. When I pass by, she always says, "Good morning, son. Want some noodles today?" Even when I say no, she laughs and says, "Next time then." Her voice has that motherly warmth that somehow makes the whole street feel alive. Right next to her stall is a man who repairs bicycles. He's been here since I was a child. His small wooden table is covered with old tools, and there's always a little radio playing soft music beside him. He works slowly, carefully tightening, fixing, wiping. He doesn't rush, and maybe that's why people trust him so much. He once told me, "When you fix something with patience, it will last longer, even if it's old." I think about that sentence often. It's true not just for bicycles, but for people too. As I continue walking, I pass by a small fruit stand. It's bright and colorful, filled with oranges, bananas, and mangoes neatly stacked. The woman who runs it is always smiling. She knows everyone by name. Sometimes she waves at me before I even reach her stall. "Want a mango today?" she calls out. And I usually laugh and say, "Not today, maybe tomorrow." She always replies, "I'll keep a sweet one for you." It's a small exchange, but it feels good, like a reminder that someone notices you. At the end of the street, there's a cafe called Morning Light. It's not large, only 3 tables, 2 fans, and a shelf of books. The owner is a young man with gentle eyes. He loves music and plants. Every morning, he plays soft acoustic songs and waters the little pots of green leaves by the window. The smell of coffee floats into the street, mixing with the sound of laughter and motorbikes. I often sit there with my notebook. I write, I think, or sometimes I just watch the world move. People come in for their daily coffee, some talk, some stay quiet, but everyone seems to slow down a little inside that tiny cafe. A few doors down from the cafe, there's an old bookstore hidden behind a small blue door. It's one of those places that people might walk past without noticing, but once you step in, it feels like a different world. The air smells of old paper and wooden shelves. The owner is an elderly woman with silver hair and calm eyes. She always greets me with the same words, "Take your time, dear," and I always do. Sometimes I read, sometimes I just stand and listen to the quiet. The ticking of an old clock, the soft sound of a turning page, those are the kind of sounds that stay in your memory. By the afternoon, the street becomes livelier. The air grows warmer, and the children start playing outside. Their laughter fills the air clear, bright, and free. A few mothers sit nearby, chatting under the shade. The bicycle man keeps working. The fruit lady fans herself with a newspaper. And the cafe owner moves his chairs out to catch the cool breeze. Everyone has their small rhythm, and together, they create something peaceful, a quiet melody of life. Around 5 in the evening, the street smells of dinner. You can smell rice cooking, grilled meat, soup simmering on stoves. Neighbors start greeting each other again. "Have you eaten? Almost ready?" It's simple. But these small words carry warmth, the kind of warmth that makes you feel you're part of something bigger than yourself. As the sun begins to set, the sky turns golden, and shadows stretch across the ground. I love this time the most. The fruit stand glows under the orange light, the cafe door stays half open, and the sound of a soft song plays from somewhere far. It feels like the whole street is slowing down, breathing together before the night arrives. Sometimes I sit on the bench near my gate and just watch. Children chase each other, dogs run along the path, and the old couple across the street closes their windows slowly. It's ordinary, but it's perfect in its own way. You can feel the end of the day settling softly over everything. No one says much, they don't need to. The silence feels full, not empty. When darkness falls, streetlights begin to glow. Their soft yellow light makes the street look calm, almost dreamlike. Shops close one by one. The sound of footsteps fades. Only the hum of crickets and the distant bark of a dog remain. I walk slowly back home, breathing in the cool evening air. It's the same street I walk every day, but somehow it always feels new, like it still has something to say if I take the time to listen. Before I go inside, I always turn around and take one last look. The houses are quiet, the lights from the windows glow warmly, and the night sky above is deep and calm. In that moment, I feel grateful for this street, for the people, for the peace that comes from the ordinary. Because sometimes, the most beautiful places are not the ones we travel to, but the ones we wake up in every day. Thank you for walking with me tonight. I hope this quiet journey down my little street brought you a bit of calm, and maybe a reminder that peace is never far away. It's always there, just waiting for you to notice it. See you again next time for another warm and gentle story here on Daily English Stories and Podcasts. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome back to Daily English Stories and Podcasts. I'm happy you're here with me again. Today I want to share a story about something simple, something calm, a rainy afternoon at home. It started just after lunch. The morning had been bright, but as the hours passed, the sky slowly turned gray. I was sitting by my window with a cup of warm tea when I heard the first drops of rain hit the roof. It wasn't a storm, just a soft, steady rain, the kind that makes everything quiet. The sound of rain has always made me feel peaceful. It's like the world is taking a deep breath, slowing down for a while. I put my phone aside, closed my laptop, and decided to do nothing. Just sit, listen, and watch the rain. Outside, the street looked different. The sky was dark, and the air had that clean, wet smell that only rain can bring. The little puddles began to form along the road, and the trees bent gently in the wind. A few people hurried by with umbrellas, their shoes splashing on the wet pavement. Everything felt slower, softer, quieter. I rested my elbows on the windowsill and just watched. The neighbor's cat ran across the street and hid under a parked car. A woman was pulling her laundry in before it got soaked. The sound of raindrops hitting the tin roofs made a kind of soft music that filled the whole neighborhood. It felt like the afternoon had paused. There's something special about days like this, when the world outside feels calm and the world inside feels even warmer. I could smell the tea beside me, its steam rising slowly into the cool air. Somewhere in the distance, I heard a child laughing, maybe splashing in the rain, despite his mother's voice calling him inside. It made me smile. Sometimes the sound of joy travels even better in the rain. I picked up a book that had been sitting on my table for weeks. It was an old novel I'd started but never finished. The paper felt cool to the touch, and the sound of pages turning mixed perfectly with the rain outside. For a while I lost track of time. The words, the rain, the quiet, they all blended together. But soon I stopped reading. I just looked out again, watching how the raindrops gathered on the glass. They slid down slowly, one after another, leaving small trails behind. Some joined together and became bigger drops, while others disappeared halfway. I don't know why, but I could watch that for hours. In moments like that, I feel a different kind of silence. Not empty, but full. It's the silence that lets you think clearly, that makes you notice the little things you often miss. Like the sound of your own breathing, or the rhythm of rain on the roof. It's a quiet reminder that even simple moments can be beautiful. After a while, I went to the kitchen. The smell of rain always makes me crave something warm. I opened the fridge, found some leftover soup from the morning, and heated it up on the stove. The sound of the boiling soup mixed with the sound of rain outside was comforting, the kind of small comfort that makes you feel safe. As I ate, I watched the rain from the kitchen window. The street was almost empty now. A few motorbikes passed by, their lights reflecting on the wet road. Everything shimmered like glass. Even though it was just a simple view, it felt strangely beautiful, as if the rain had cleaned not just the streets but my thoughts too. After finishing my meal, I carried my cup of tea to the living room and sat on the sofa near the big window. The sound of rain had grown stronger now, but it was steady, not harsh. It was the kind of sound that makes you want to curl up under a blanket, so I did. I pulled a soft gray blanket around my shoulders and watched as the raindrops kept falling endlessly. Across the street, I saw the old man who runs the bicycle shop. He had pulled the metal shutter halfway down, but he wasn't closing yet. He stood there, watching the rain, hands in his pockets, a small smile on his face. I wondered what he was thinking about. Maybe nothing, maybe everything. Sometimes you don't need to think much when it rains. You just feel. A little while later, the fruit seller came running with a plastic cover, trying to protect her baskets from getting soaked. She laughed loudly when the wind blew water on her face. Even through the glass, I could hear that laugh, bright and honest. It made the street come alive again for a moment. The rain kept falling. I thought about all the times I'd seen this street under different weather. Bright mornings, hot afternoons, quiet nights. But rainy days were always my favorite. They made everything look softer, and somehow more real. Maybe because rain washes away the noise and leaves only what truly matters: the sound, the feeling, the moment. As the afternoon went on, the sky grew darker, and I turned on a small lamp beside me. Its warm light made the room glow softly. I could still hear the rain tapping against the glass. I took another sip of tea. It was almost cold now, but it didn't matter. I just wanted to stay there, listening, breathing, being still. After a while, the rain began to slow. The sound grew lighter, as if the sky was running out of things to say. I opened the window a little. Cool air came rushing in, carrying the smell of wet earth and leaves. It was refreshing. I took a deep breath and smiled. The clouds began to break apart, and a faint light appeared behind them. The puddles on the street reflected that light, shimmering like mirrors. Children came outside again, one holding a red plastic ball, another carrying a paper boat. They ran to the puddles, laughing as their shoes splashed water everywhere. Their joy filled the whole street with energy again. It was like watching life restart after a long pause. The fruit seller reopened her stall, the bicycle man lifted his shutter again, and a woman began sweeping the sidewalk in front of her house. The world was moving again. The street looked clean and new. Even the air felt lighter, as if the rain had washed away the weight of the day. I leaned against the window frame and just watched. The sky was still cloudy, but a single line of sunlight broke through and touched the wet pavement. It sparkled like gold for a few seconds before fading. That short moment felt perfect, a quiet gift from the day. Soon the evening light began to fade. I closed the window, turned on the small lamp again, and sat back down with my book. The pages were still open where I had left them earlier. The sound of the city returned, a motorbike passing, a dog barking, a distant radio playing music. Everything felt ordinary again, but also calmer, softer, kinder. I took another deep breath, and I realized something. It wasn't just the rain that made me feel peaceful. It was the chance to stop, to listen, to breathe, to notice things I usually rush past. The rain simply gave me permission to slow down. Outside, the streetlights began to glow. Drops of water still clung to the trees, catching the light and shining like tiny stars. A cool wind came through the small cracks in the window, and I pulled the blanket closer. The day was ending, but it didn't feel like something was over. It felt like something gentle had begun. Thank you for spending this rainy afternoon with me. I hope wherever you are, you find a moment to slow down, to listen to the world, and to enjoy the quiet sounds around you. Sometimes peace doesn't come from silence, it comes from the rain. See you again next time for another warm and gentle story here on Daily English Stories and Podcasts. Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to Daily English Stories and Podcasts. I'm happy you're here with me again today. This morning, I want to tell you about one of my favorite times of the week. A quiet, simple, and happy moment Sunday breakfast. Sunday mornings always feel different. The air seems softer, the light gentler, and even time feels slower. It's the one morning when I don't rush anywhere. There's no alarm ringing, no emails waiting, no traffic outside the window. It's just stillness and the promise of a slow, peaceful breakfast. When I wake up on Sundays, the first thing I notice is the light coming through the curtains. It's not harsh like weekday mornings. It's warm and golden, like the kind of light that wants you to stay in bed a little longer. I stretch, take a deep breath, and listen to the world outside. There's the distant sound of a bird, the gentle hum of a neighbor's radio, and the quiet clinking of someone preparing tea. It feels safe, calm, familiar. I slowly get out of bed, put on a soft t-shirt, and head to the kitchen. The air there feels cooler, and I can smell the faint scent of coffee beans waiting to be ground. Making breakfast on a Sunday has become a little ritual for me. Something simple, but filled with care. I start by turning on the kettle. The sound of water heating is comforting, and I slice some bread and put it in the toaster. As I wait, I open the small kitchen window. Cool morning air drifts in, carrying the scent of wet leaves and sunlight. It feels like the world saying good morning back to me. While the bread turns golden, I prepare my favorite drink, milk tea. I mix black tea with a bit of sugar and pour warm milk over it. The smell fills the room instantly. It's sweet, soft, and full of warmth. When the toaster clicks, I spread a thin layer of butter over the bread and listen to it melt slowly. The sound of spreading butter is quiet but satisfying. It's one of those tiny details that makes mornings feel complete. Sometimes I add an egg or a few slices of banana on top. Nothing fancy, just small things that taste like comfort. On the table, I place my cup of milk tea beside the toast and sit down slowly. I don't rush to eat. I just look at everything for a moment, the steam rising from the cup, the golden toast on the plate, the sunlight touching the edge of the table. It's a simple breakfast, but it feels like a small celebration of calm. While eating, I like to play some quiet music in the background, soft piano or acoustic guitar. Sometimes I play an old playlist from my phone, songs I've listened to for years. They make me feel connected to old memories, mornings at my parents' home. The smell of my mom's coffee, my dad reading the newspaper, and the sound of my brother laughing in the next room. It's funny how a simple song can bring all those moments back so clearly. As I take another sip of tea, I look out the window. Oh, the street outside is calm. A few neighbors are sweeping their yards. A woman is watering the plants in front of her house. A dog stretches lazily near the gate, and somewhere down the street someone is frying eggs. I can smell it even from here. It's the smell of Sunday morning home, comfort and warmth all mixed together. After finishing my toast, I pour myself a little more tea. I like the way the cup feels warm in my hands. I don't check my phone. I don't open my laptop. I just sit there quietly, watching the light move slowly across the floor. The house feels alive but silent, like it's breathing peacefully. There's something beautiful about mornings when you do nothing, when you just exist. Sometimes on Sundays I cook a little more. If I have eggs and rice, I'll make fried rice with vegetables. If I have fruit, I'll cut it into small pieces and make a simple salad. It's not about cooking something perfect. It's about enjoying the process. It's the chopping, the stirring, the smell of garlic hitting the hot pan. These little things make me feel grounded. As the food cooks, I open the door to let the sunlight in. The light fills the kitchen, bouncing off the pots and plates. It makes the whole place feel warm and alive. Sometimes I hear children playing outside, their laughter echoing down the street. A neighbor calls out to another. Someone plays an old song on the radio. The world feels connected not through noise, but through gentle sounds of daily life. Once everything is ready, I set my breakfast on the small wooden table near the window. I sit down, take a deep breath, and thank the morning for being kind. The first bite of warm rice and vegetables always makes me smile. It's not special food, but it feels special because I made it slowly, with peace, not hurry. I remember when I was a child, Sunday breakfasts were always my favorite. My mother used to wake up early and cook rice porridge or eggs with soy sauce. The smell filled the entire house. My father would sit near the window reading the morning paper, and I would sit beside him, waiting for breakfast to be ready. There was no rush, no noise, just the quiet sound of cooking and conversation. Even now, every time I eat a warm breakfast, I think of those mornings. It feels like a gentle connection between then and now. After finishing my meal, I usually stay at the table for a while. I look outside at the quiet street. Some people are hanging laundry. A bicycle passes by slowly. The morning light becomes brighter and the air warmer. It's a perfect time to just sit, no plans, no goals, just being part of a peaceful morning. Sometimes I read a short story after breakfast. Sometimes I just sit in silence, listening to the sound of life, the wind through the trees, the ticking of the clock, the soft clatter of dishes being washed next door. It's amazing how much you can hear when you stop trying to fill the silence. As the morning slowly turns into noon, I start cleaning the dishes. Warm water, soap bubbles, the simple rhythm of washing plates. It's another quiet moment that feels meditative. Through the kitchen window, I see the sunlight moving across the neighbor's wall. The day is growing brighter, but I'm still moving slowly, like I don't want the morning to end. When everything's clean, I dry my hands and make one last cup of tea. I sit on the balcony with it, feeling the gentle breeze on my face. The street is now awake. Children on bicycles, people chatting outside, a motorbike passing here and there. But even in that small activity, the peace of Sunday morning remains. It's in the air, in the warmth of the tea, in the quiet smile you give yourself for no reason at all. It's a reminder that peace, dose, and tea need to be planned. It just needs a little time, a little attention, and a quiet heart. Thank you for sharing this Sunday breakfast with me. I hope wherever you are, you also have mornings like this, slow, calm, and full of small joys. Sometimes happiness isn't about doing more, it's about doing less and doing it with love. See you again next time for another peaceful story on Daily English Stories and Podcasts. Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to Daily English Stories and Podcasts. I'm so happy you're here with me again. Today I want to tell you a gentle story about a small friend that changed my quiet days, my little cat. It started one evening about a year ago. I had just come home from work. The air outside was cool and the sky was turning a beautiful orange. As I walked to the gate, I heard a soft sound, a tiny, shaky meow. At first I thought I'd imagined it. But then I looked down, and there, behind a small plant pot, was a little gray kitten. It was so small, it could fit in my hands. Its fur was dirty, and it looked tired and hungry. When I crouched down, it looked at me with the biggest, roundest eyes I had ever seen. Something about that looked curious, scared, but full of hope, made me stop and smile. I gently reached out my hand. The kitten hesitated for a second, then took one small step forward. It sniffed my fingers and gave a tiny purr. That was the moment I knew this little one had chosen me. I opened the gate and went inside. The kitten followed me all the way to the door, its small paws making almost no sound. I poured some milk into a bowl and placed it on the floor. It started drinking so fast that I could hear the tiny lapping sounds. It must have been starving. After that, I gave it a soft towel to sleep on in the corner of my living room. It curled up into a little ball and fell asleep immediately. I sat nearby, watching it breathe quietly. There was something so peaceful about that moment. Just a small life finding a bit of safety in a big world. That night, the rain started to fall outside. I could hear it tapping on the roof, and I looked down at the little cat sleeping soundly by my feet. It felt like a good sign, like both of us had found warmth on a cold night. The next morning, I woke up early and walked into the living room. The kitten was still there, but now it was awake, stretching its tiny legs. When it saw me, it tilted its head and meowed softly as if saying, "Good morning." I smiled and said, "Good morning to you too." That was how our mornings began. I didn't plan to keep a pet, but day by day, the little cat became part of my life. I named her Mew, simple and easy a name that seemed to fit her perfectly. Mew was playful, but gentle. She loved chasing a small ball I made out of paper. She would run after it, then bring it back to me as if she wanted to play again. Sometimes when I worked on my computer, she would climb onto the desk and sit beside the keyboard watching the screen like she was trying to understand what I was doing. Other times, she just slept near my feet, curled up into her favorite tiny circle. Evenings were our quiet time. After dinner, I'd sit by the window with a cup of tea, and she would jump onto my lap. She liked looking outside at the moving lights, at the falling rain, and sometimes at her own reflection in the glass. Her purring sound was soft, steady, and somehow comforting. It filled the silence in a way words never could. One Sunday morning, I decided to give her a small bath. She didn't like it, of course. At first, she tried to run away, but once I used warm water and spoke gently, she relaxed. After drying her fur, she looked even smaller, like a little puffball. She sneezed once, and I couldn't stop laughing. That morning, the house smelled of soap and sunshine. Mew sat by the window, licking her paws and cleaning herself carefully. I watched her for a while, thinking about how quickly she had become part of my home. There was a kind of joy in that, a quiet happiness that doesn't come from big things, but from the presence of another living being. Over time, Miu grew more confident. She began exploring every corner of the house, the bookshelf, the top of the fridge, even the laundry basket. Sometimes I'd find her asleep in the strangest places inside a cardboard box, on top of my clean shirts, or behind the curtain where the sunlight was warm. Every time I saw her like that, I couldn't help but smile. There were small moments that I'll never forget, like the day she chased a butterfly in the garden. She jumped and missed, of course, but she looked so proud afterward that I couldn't stop laughing. Or the time she tried to catch her own tail and ended up spinning in circles until she fell over. Life felt lighter with her around. One evening, I came home tired after a long day.
Yes.
As soon as I opened the door, I saw Miu waiting near the shoe rack. She walked toward me, rubbed her head against my leg, and purred softly. It was such a simple gesture, but it melted all my stress away. In that moment, I realized how much peace she had brought into my life. Sometimes I think pets understand more than we realize. They can't talk, but they know how to listen. They sense when we're tired, when we're happy, and when we just need quiet company. Miu never demanded attention. She just stayed near a silent little friend who made the house feel alive. Oh. A year has passed since that first evening. Miu is bigger, stronger, and a bit more mischievous. But she's still the same gentle cat who follows me around every morning. Every time I make breakfast, she sits by my feet, waiting for a little piece of bread or fish. And every evening, she curls up beside me on the sofa while I read or watch the rain. Sometimes I wonder what my days would be like without her. Probably quieter, but emptier too. Having her around has taught me something important, that love doesn't always arrive loudly. Sometimes it walks on soft paws and finds you when you least expect it. Thank you for listening to my story today. I hope you enjoyed spending this time with me and Miu, my little cat. She may be small, but she's a big part of my peaceful life. Sometimes, happiness is just that, a quiet moment, a cup of tea, and the sound of soft paws walking across the floor. See you again next time for another warm and gentle story on Daily English Stories and Podcasts. Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to Daily English Stories and Podcasts. I'm happy you're here with me again. Today, I want to take you outside, not into my home this time, but into the quiet streets of my city, for a simple evening walk that turned into something more. The sun was setting when I left my apartment. The air was warm but soft, and the sky had that beautiful golden color that only appears for a few minutes each day. It was one of those evenings when the world feels both busy and peaceful at the same time. I didn't have a plan. I just wanted to walk, to stretch my legs, to breathe, to watch people finish their day. Sometimes walking helps me think more clearly, and sometimes it helps me stop thinking at all. The streets were full of small stories. A man was closing his flower shop, carefully moving the pots inside one by one. Children were chasing a ball near the corner, their laughter echoing through the narrow alley. A street vendor was packing up her cart, still humming an old song softly under her breath. Everything felt alive, but in a quiet, gentle way. I walked slowly past a row of shops, their glass windows reflecting the orange light of sunset. Inside one cafe, a young couple was laughing over their drinks. Next door, an old man was sitting alone by the window, reading a newspaper with a cup of black coffee beside him. There was something peaceful about that. The mix of noise and silence. Of stories that all shared the same space, but not the same direction. After a while, I reached the small park near the river. It wasn't crowded, just a few people walking their dogs, and a few cyclists passing by. The water reflected the sky, a mix of pink, orange, and soft blue. I stopped for a moment to watch. The breeze touched my face, carrying the smell of wet grass and food from nearby stalls. Somewhere, someone was grilling corn, and the scent made me smile. I hadn't eaten yet, but at that moment, I didn't feel hungry, just calm. I found an empty bench and sat down. In front of me, a small boy was feeding pigeons. He threw pieces of bread and they fluttered around him like a small cloud. His mother stood nearby, smiling quietly. It was such an ordinary scene, but it reminded me of my own childhood. When I was his age, I used to do the same thing, throw crumbs and watch the birds fight for them, laughing every time they flew too close. Funny how memories can hide for years and suddenly come back with something as simple as a sound or a smell. As the sun disappeared behind the buildings, the park began to change. The lights turned on, one by one, along the path, on the bridge, by the food stalls. The city's heartbeat slowed, but it didn't stop. People kept walking, but their steps became softer, their voices quieter. I decided to buy a cup of iced tea from a small cart nearby. The seller was an old woman with a wide smile. She poured the tea into a plastic cup and asked, "Long day?" I nodded and laughed. "Too long." She smiled and said, "Then this will help." It was just tea, but it tasted like kindness. I walked again, holding the cup in my hand. The air felt cooler now. Sound of traffic was fading, replaced by the sound of crickets and distant music from someone's speaker. A streetlight flickered above me, casting a warm glow on the wet pavement. I watched my reflection on the ground as I walked, thinking about how many evenings had looked like this. Different days, same feeling. Then, something funny happened. As I passed a bench, a small dog suddenly jumped in front of me, barking playfully. It wasn't angry, just excited. It wagged its tail and looked at me like it wanted to play. A young woman ran after it, laughing breathlessly. "I'm so sorry," she said. "He thinks everyone is his friend." I laughed too. The dog sniffed my shoe, then sat down like he'd known me forever. The woman tried to pull him back, but he refused to move. We both laughed harder. For a few minutes, we talked about dogs, about the weather, about how good the corn smelled nearby. She was friendly, the kind of person who made small talk feel easy. Before she left, she waved and said, "Have a good walk." And just like that, my quiet evening had turned into something unexpectedly cheerful. I kept walking until I reached the bridge. From there, I could see the whole city glowing. Streetlights, cars, reflections, dancing on the water. It was beautiful. I leaned against the railing and took a slow sip of my tea. The world felt big and small at the same time, busy but kind. I thought about how every evening is a little different. Some are lonely, some are peaceful, and some, like tonight, are filled with small surprises that make you smile without realizing. Maybe life is like that too. You can't plan it perfectly, but if you pay attention, you'll find joy in the smallest corners. The sky turned dark, and I decided to walk home. The streets were quieter now. The little shops had closed, the sound of the river faded, and the lights from motorbikes stretched across the road like ribbons. I walked slowly, feeling the cool air on my face, listening to the rhythm of my own steps. It wasn't silence, but it was peace. When I reached my door, I looked up at the night sky one more time. No stars tonight, just clouds. Still, it was beautiful, because beauty doesn't always need to shine. Sometimes it just needs to be there, quiet, simple, and real. Thank you for joining me on this evening walk. I hope it reminded you that even ordinary days can become special if you take the time to slow down and notice them. See you again next time for another story on Daily English Stories and Podcasts. Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to Daily English Stories and Podcasts. I'm so happy you're here with me again. Today's story is about something small, a tiny shop on the corner of my street and the people who make it truly special. It's been there for as long as I can remember, the kind of shop you almost forget about until you suddenly need it. It's not fancy or big, just a little place with a faded blue sign and two old refrigerators humming by the entrance. But somehow, it has become a steady part of my daily life. I go there almost every morning, sometimes to buy milk for my coffee, sometimes to grab a pack of instant noodles for a quick lunch, and sometimes for no real reason at all, just to say hello. The owner is a man in his 60s named Mr. Nam. He's tall and slim, the kind, weathered face, and always has a white towel draped around his neck. His wife, Mrs. Lan, usually sits behind the counter, completely absorbed in Korean dramas on her phone. They run the place together, day and night, through rain or shine. Whenever I enter, Mr. Nam greets me with the same cheerful words, "Morning, young man, coffee or bread today?" Even if I don't buy either, he still laughs like he already knew the answer. One Sunday morning, I went there earlier than usual. The sky was clear, the street was still quiet, and the smell of freshly baked bread was floating from the bakery across the road. As I stepped inside, the little bell above the door made its usual soft ding. "Ah, early today," Mr. Nam said with a bright smile. "Couldn't sleep," I replied with a yawn. "Ah, I see," he laughed. "Then coffee will fix that." He handed me a small cup of instant coffee and leaned on the counter. There was something about that shop that felt timeless. The old curling posters on the wall, the dusty shelves full of everything from batteries to biscuits, and the faint sound of a radio playing love songs from 20 years ago. It always reminded me of simpler days. While I was paying, a little boy walked in. He looked about 7 or 8 years old, with messy hair and a very serious expression. He stood by the candy section, carefully counting the coins in his small hand. After a moment, he looked up and asked, "Uncle Nam, how much is this chocolate?" Mr. Nam smiled down at him and said, 5,000, little man." The boy's face fell as he looked at his coins again. He said softly, "I only have 3,000. There was a short silence. Then Mr. Nam bent down, took the chocolate, and said, "Well, lucky you. Today it's only 3. He winked and handed it to the boy. The kid's eyes widened in disbelief. "Really? Really, Mr. Nam?" confirmed. "But only if you promise to share it." The boy grinned from ear to ear, nodded quickly, and ran out of the shop, clutching his prize. I couldn't help smiling. "It was kind of you," I said. Mr. Nam just shrugged. "It's just chocolate," he said, "but sometimes a kid needs something sweet, not just in his mouth, but in his day." A few days later, I stopped by the shop again in the evening. It had been raining lightly, and the pavement outside was wet and shiny under the streetlights. Inside, it smelled faintly of detergent and instant noodles. Mr. Nam was restocking bottles on a shelf, and Mrs. Lan was sitting on a low stool, neatly folding small plastic bags. We talked for a bit about the rain, about how quiet the city gets on wet nights. Then an old woman walked in, holding an umbrella that had clearly seen better days. She moved slowly, and her hands were shaking slightly. "Do you have any bread left?" she asked in a soft voice. "Last one," Mr. Nam said, taking a loaf from behind the counter. The woman searched through her bag for money, but after a long moment, she sighed and said, "Oh dear. I think I forgot my purse." Mr. Nam didn't even blink. He smiled and said, "Then you'll pay tomorrow." The woman looked surprised. "You trust me?" He laughed gently. "Of course. You've been buying bread here for 15 years. If I can't trust you, who can I trust?" She smiled, thanked him warmly, and left slowly with her umbrella. When the door closed, I said, "You're a good man, Mr. Nam." He shook his head. "No, I just remember what it's like to have good neighbors. Street isn't just buildings, it's people. And if we forget that, then we lose something important." I didn't know what to say, so I just nodded, and we both stood there in quiet agreement while the rain kept falling outside. A week later, something unexpected happened. I went to the shop as usual, but the door was locked. A small handwritten note was taped to the glass. Closed for family reasons. Back soon? For the next 3 days, the shop stayed dark. The whole corner of the street felt empty and strange without it. It's funny how we don't realize the value of something until it disappears, even for just a short time. Then, on the 4th day, I saw the lights on again. The door was open. And inside, Mr. Nam was sitting behind the counter, looking a bit tired, but still smiling. "Back to work?" I asked, feeling relieved. He nodded slowly. "My wife wasn't feeling well," he said quietly. "She's fine now. But she told me, don't just sit around worrying. Go open the shop. People will miss your jokes." We both laughed, and I realized she was right. That little shop wasn't just a place to buy things. It was part of the street's rhythm, part of what made this big city feel like a home. Now, every time I pass by, I make sure to stop, even if I don't need anything. Sometimes I just buy a bottle of water or a pack of gum. Sometimes I stay for a few minutes, talking about the weather, the news, or nothing at all. Because in a world where everything moves too fast, that small shop on the corner reminds me to slow down, to look up, say hello, and to appreciate the small connections that quietly keep our days warm. Thank you for joining me today. I hope this story reminds you that kindness, dose, and tea always come from big gestures or grand places sometimes. It comes from a tiny shop and a simple act of care. I'll see you again next time for another warm and true story on Daily English Stories and Podcasts. Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to Daily English Stories and Podcasts. I'm happy you're here with me again tonight. Today, I want to tell you a story about something small that brings me peace whenever the world feels too loud. A simple song and an unexpected morning that taught me a valuable lesson. It all started on a rainy afternoon last week. The sky was gray, and the gentle sound of raindrops hit the windows. I was sitting in a small cafe near my office, waiting for the rain to stop. The smell of fresh coffee filled the air, and soft music played quietly in the background. It was the perfect moment to just sit and breathe. Then, out of nowhere, a familiar melody began to play. It was that song, the one I hadn't heard in years, but one that used to mean so much to me. The moment I heard the first few notes, I froze. It felt like the room around me just disappeared. It wasn't just music anymore. It was memory. I leaned back in my chair and closed my eyes for a moment. The melody brought me back to a time when everything felt simpler. Long walks, small dreams, and a kind of quiet happiness I didn't know I'd miss one day. I first heard that song many years ago on a bus ride home from university. The radio was playing softly, and I remember sitting by the window, watching the sunset over the rice fields. The sky was a beautiful mix of orange and purple, and the singer's voice blended perfectly with the peaceful view. I didn't even know the title back then. The feeling, that gentle mix of nostalgia and hope, stayed with me. Since then, I've carried that song through different moments of my life. It's been with me during long nights of studying, on rainy walks home, on flights to new places, and on quiet mornings when I just needed something familiar. It's strange how one song can feel like a friend. It doesn't talk, but it understands. It doesn't solve problems, but it reminds you that you've survived tough times before and you will again. As I sat in the cafe that day, I looked around. A few people were working on their laptops. A couple was talking softly, and the barista was humming along to the same tune. Everyone was in their own little world, but for a brief moment, the song connected us somehow. The same rhythm, the same feeling of calm. I took out my phone and searched for it. When I saw the title appear, I smiled. I added it to a special playlist on my phone, one I call Moments That Matter. It's not a long list, just a few songs, but each one reminds me of something I don't ever want to forget. When the rain finally stopped, I paid for my coffee and stepped outside. The street was shiny, and the air was cool and fresh. I put on my earphones and pressed play. As I walked, the world seemed to move in rhythm with the music. Motorbikes, footsteps, even distant laughter, all blending into one slow, beautiful melody. It wasn't a big, life-changing moment, but it felt right. It felt peaceful. This experience reminded me of another morning just a few days earlier that also taught me about finding peace in the small, unplanned moments. It was last Monday morning, and I woke up late. I had an important early meeting at work, but my alarm just didn't ring. When I finally opened my eyes, the clock showed 7:55. My bus leaves at 8 o'clock. I jumped out of bed, rushed through a quick shower, threw on the first shirt I could find, which of course turned out to be the one with a tiny coffee stain on the collar. There was no time to change. I grabbed my bag, my keys, and ran out the door. The sky was already bright, and the morning air was humid. By the time I reached the bus stop, I was sweating and completely out of breath, but the bus was nowhere in sight. I checked my watch. 8:05. I had missed it. For a few seconds, I just stood there catching my breath and trying not to feel frustrated. Then, I couldn't help but laugh a little. Maybe the universe was trying to tell me to slow down, so I sat on the bench and decided to wait for the next bus. The bus stop was busy. A group of students in their school uniforms were laughing loudly about something. An old man was reading a newspaper, his glasses perched halfway down his nose. A woman was selling snacks from a small basket, calling out softly, "B&H me, fresh bread." I decided to buy one, partly because I was hungry, and partly because her smile was just too kind to ignore. She handed me the warm sandwich and said, "Good day, young man. Don't rush too much. The bus will come." I laughed and replied, "I hope so." I sat there eating my breakfast, watching the street come alive. Motorbikes honked. Birds flew over the trees and people crossed the road with that perfect mix of chaos and order that you only see on mornings in Vietnam. After about 10 minutes, an old lady came and sat down on the bench beside me. She looked at my half-finished sandwich and said, "You know, breakfast is much better when you eat it slowly." I smiled and said, "You sound just like my mom." She laughed. I probably am someone's mom who says the exact same thing. We started talking about the weather, about how buses are never on time, about how mornings can be both stressful and beautiful at the same time. It was so easy to talk to her. She had this kind of calm energy that makes you feel like everything is going to be fine. Then she said something I'll never forget. She said, "Young people are always in a rush to arrive, but sometimes the best part of the journey is the waiting." I nodded slowly, thinking about her words. She was right. If my alarm hadn't failed, if I hadn't missed my bus, I wouldn't be sitting there, eating warm bread and having this quiet, meaningful conversation with a stranger. I would have just been rushing to the next thing. When the next bus finally arrived, I stood up and got on. I waved to the old woman, and she waved back with a warm smile. The bus moved slowly through the morning traffic. I sat by the window, watching the sunlight hit the buildings. Everything looked ordinary, but I felt strangely happy. That small delay, the missed bus, the waiting. The kind people I met turned what could have been a very bad morning into a story I know I'll remember for a long time now. Whenever I feel lost, tired, or rushed, I think about that morning at the bus stop, and I play that song I rediscovered in the cafe. That song is like a small reset button for my soul. And that morning is a reminder that time passes, feelings change, and sometimes peace is just one song away, or one missed bus away. It reminds me that it's okay when life doesn't go according to plan. Sometimes the detours are where we find the most beautiful moments. Thank you for listening today. I hope you also have a song that feels like a quiet friend. And I hope that the next time you're stuck waiting for something, you try not to be upset. Maybe the universe just wants you to pause, to look around, to meet someone new, or to simply enjoy a moment you didn't plan to have. See you next time for another calm and gentle story on Daily English Stories and Podcasts. Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to Daily English Stories and Podcasts. I'm so happy you're here with me again. Today's story is a simple one, a morning that didn't go the way I planned, but ended up teaching me something small and beautiful. It all started at the bus stop. It was a Monday morning, the kind that always feels heavier than the rest of the week. You know that feeling the weekend just ended, your bed feels extra soft, and your alarm seems louder than usual. That day my alarm didn't just seem louder, it didn't ring at all. I opened my eyes and saw sunlight already filling the room. Something felt wrong. I looked at my phone. 7:48 a.m. My bus comes at 8 o'clock. My office is 40 minutes away. I hadn't even brushed my teeth yet. Perfect, I said to myself, and jumped out of bed like a superhero in slow motion. I ran around the apartment trying to do 5 things at once. Brush my teeth, make coffee, find socks, check the weather, and iron my shirt. But of course I burned my toast, spilled the coffee, and couldn't find a matching pair of socks anywhere. When I finally got dressed, I realized my shirt had a small stain near the pocket. I tried to hide it with my bag strap. It didn't work. By the time I left the house, I was sweating and out of breath, the classic Monday look. I reached the bus stop at 8:02, just in time to see the bus drive away. I waved hopelessly, but of course it didn't stop. I stood there for a moment watching it disappear down the street, and then I just started laughing, because what else could I do? I sat down on the bench and took a deep breath. The morning air was warm but fresh. People hurried past, some on bikes, some on foot, everyone in their own rush. Across the street, a woman was selling B&H meat from a small cart. The smell of warm bread and grilled pork filled the air. It was impossible to resist. I walked over, bought one sandwich, and asked the woman, "Has the 8 o'clock bus already gone?" She smiled kindly and said, "Of course, but don't worry, another will come. Everything comes if you wait long enough." Her words were simple, but they stayed in my head. I thanked her and went back to the bench with my sandwich. The bus stop was getting busier. A group of students in blue uniforms were laughing, trying to balance their heavy school bags while eating breakfast. An old man sat near the corner, reading a newspaper so big it almost covered his face. A delivery guy was leaning on his motorbike, scrolling on his phone and humming a pop song. It was chaotic, but in a strangely beautiful way. Everyone was heading somewhere, but for a few minutes we were all together in this small, noisy corner of the city. As I sat eating, I thought about how life often pushes us to move faster. We rush from one thing to another, from home to work, from task to task, without ever noticing what's happening around us. But sometimes when you're forced to stop, like when you miss your bus, you actually start to see. A few minutes later, a little girl and her mother arrived at the stop. The girl was holding a red balloon and skipping happily. She looked around and said, "Mommy, where's the bus?" Her mother smiled. "It'll come soon. Be patient," the girl pouted. "But I don't like waiting," the mother laughed. "Then let's make waiting fun." She started singing softly, and the girl joined in, their voices blending with the morning noise. I couldn't help smiling. Sometimes joy is just that simpler song while you wait. After about 10 minutes, an old woman sat down beside me. She was holding a basket of fresh vegetables, and her hair was tied neatly in a bun. She looked at my half-eaten sandwich and said, "Young man, you should eat slower. The bus isn't going to fly away." I laughed. "You sound like my mother," she smiled. "Good. Then maybe I'm helping her from far away." We talked for a while about how the buses were always late, about how the city had changed, and about how the mornings never feel the same after you turn 60. Her voice was soft but full of humor. When I asked if she took the bus every day, she nodded. "I visit my sister on Mondays. She's not well, but she loves to see my even if all we do is drink tea and complain about our knees." I laughed again. She grinned and said, "See? Even complaining can be a kind of love." As we talked, the students finished their food and began teasing each other. One of them accidentally dropped his drink. It splashed on the ground and he shouted, "Ah, my coffee!" Everyone laughed, even the old man behind the newspaper. For a moment, the whole bus stop felt like a small family, strangers connected by ordinary life. Then, from a distance, I heard the familiar sound of an engine. The next bus was finally coming. People stood up quickly, checking their pockets, gathering their bags. The old woman beside me smiled. "See, it always comes just when people start to forget about it." I smiled back. "Thank you for the company," I said. She nodded. "Enjoy your ride, and don't eat so fast next time." When I got on the bus, I found a seat near the window. The air conditioner hummed quietly, and sunlight flickered through the moving trees outside. As the bus pulled away, I looked back. The old woman was still there, waiting for the next one. I opened my phone to check the time. It was already 8:45. I was definitely going to be late. But strangely, I didn't care anymore. I felt calm, as if the day had already taught me its lesson before it even began. Halfway through the ride, the bus stopped at another station. A group of people got Anna. Young couple arguing softly. A man carrying flowers. And a boy with headphones lost in his own world. I love moments like that, when everyone's story crosses for just a few minutes before going separate ways again. Seat beside me opened and the man with the flowers sat down. He looked nervous. After a few seconds, I said, "Someone special." He nodded and smiled shyly. "My wife. It's our anniversary. I'm late, but I hope she forgives me." I laughed. "Bring flowers, she will." He chuckled. "Maybe. But maybe I'll buy chocolate too, just in case." We both laughed. It's funny, a simple conversation between two strangers can make a long ride feel shorter. When I finally reached my stop, I got off the bus feeling lighter than when I started. The day hadn't gone as planned. I was late, tired, and still had coffee stains on my shirt, but I felt grateful. Because sometimes the world gives you a pause you didn't ask for. And that pause turns into something worth remembering. That morning at the bus stop wasn't just about waiting for a ride. It was about people, kind ones, funny ones, ordinary ones all sharing a few minutes of the same morning under the same sun. Thank you for spending this story with me. Next time you miss your bus, or your day doesn't go as planned, try not to get upset. Maybe it's just life reminding you to slow down, to notice the smell of warm bread, to talk to a stranger, or to smile at something small. Because sometimes the best journeys begin while you're waiting for another one to start. See you next time for another gentle story on Daily English Stories and Podcasts. Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to Daily English Stories and Podcasts. I'm so happy you're here again with me. Today's story is about something very simple, a new pair of shoes. But as always, the simple things have a way of reminding us what really matters in life. It started on a quiet Saturday morning. The sun had just risen, and soft light was slipping through the curtains in my room. The air was cool, the kind that makes you want to open all the windows and let it in. I was cleaning my closet, something I only do when I feel like resetting my mind. Old shirts, books, jackets, a few things I hadn't touched in years. And then there they were, my old running shoes. They were sitting at the back of the shelf, covered in a thin layer of dust, the white now turned pale gray, the soles almost flat. When I picked them up, a little puff of dust rose into the air, and a faint smell of grass and rain came back, the kind of smell that doesn't belong to a closet, but to memories. Those shoes had been with me for years. They'd seen long walks, late-night runs, and even that one unexpected storm where I had to walk home drenched but laughing. They had been part of so many little adventures that seeing them again felt like meeting an old friend. But their time was over. One of the laces was torn, and the sole had a tiny hole near the front. Still, I couldn't throw them away. It felt wrong, like saying goodbye to a piece of my youth. I sat down for a minute, holding them in my hands. And I thought, maybe it's time for something new. Not to replace the old memories, but to start walking toward new ones. So that afternoon, I decided to buy a new pair of shoes. The shoe store I went to wasn't fancy. It was a small family shop tucked between a coffee stall and a stationery store. There was a little bell above the door that rang softly when I walked in. Inside, the smell of new leather filled the air, and rows of shoes lined the wooden shelves, black ones, brown ones, white ones, each waiting for someone to take them on a journey. The shopkeeper, a man in his 50s, looked up and smiled. "Good afternoon, young man," he said warmly. "Is looking for something special?" I laughed. "Just something that fits my feet and my life." He nodded. "Ah, that's the hardest kind to find." He disappeared into the back and returned with 2 boxes. "Try these," he said. "Good price, good quality, and they don't complain even if you walk all day." His humor made me laugh. I tried on the first pair, a dark gray design, light and simple. The moment I stood up, I could feel the difference. They were soft, firm, and almost too comfortable. I took a few steps around the shop, and the sound of the sole on the floor felt like a rhythmer. Small reminder that every new step can feel right if you take it slowly. As I paid, the shopkeeper said something I'll never forget. "You know," he said, "shoes are strange friends. They go everywhere with you, but they never talk. Still, they know exactly where you've been." I smiled and nodded. He was right. I left the shop feeling lighter, carrying a box that held not just shoes, but also a promise to walk more, to live more, and maybe to find a little more of myself on the way. That evening, I took my new shoes for a walk. It had been a while since I walked without a reason. No errands, no deadlines, just walking. The sun was setting, and the city was slowly calming down. Shadows grew longer, and the warm light painted everything gold. I walked through the small streets of my neighborhood. The baker was closing his shop, the smell of fresh bread still in the air. Children were playing soccer barefoot on the sidewalk, laughing loudly every time the ball hit a tree. Couples sat on their motorbike, sharing an ice cream and pretending not to notice that everyone could see how in love they were. Everything felt alive, and yet calm, like the city itself was breathing slowly. I turned toward the park, the same park where I used to jog years ago. The trees had grown taller, the benches older, but the feeling was the same, a small piece of green in the middle of a busy city. As I walked past the pond, I saw a father teaching his son how to ride a bicycle. The boy's legs wobbled, and his face showed that mix of fear and excitement that only kids have. "Don't let go, Dad," he shouted. His father laughed. "I won't. I'm right behind you." I stopped for a moment and watched. The boy finally pedaled on his own, riding a few meters before stopping and cheering loudly. His father clapped, and for some reason, I felt a small lump in my throat. It reminded me of my own childhood, my dad's hand on the back of my bike, his voice telling me, "Don't look back, just keep going." I smiled quietly. Maybe that's what growing up really is, learning to keep going, even when you can't feel someone's hand behind you anymore. I sat on a bench, watching the world move slowly around me. An old couple walked past, holding hands as if they'd done it 1,000,000 times. A teenage boy jogged by with loud music in his ears, trying to look serious but clearly enjoying himself. And me, I was just sitting there, listening to the faint sound of birds, feeling the new shoes bend and soften under my feet. It was a simple, quiet happiness. Not the kind that makes your heart race, but the kind that fills you gently, like sunlight through the leaves. As I got up to go home, I took a longer route past the small noodle stall, past the bridge that crosses the river and into a street I hadn't walked in years. The new shoes squeaked slightly with every step, as if introducing themselves to the ground. Halfway down the road, a small boy called out, "Hey, Uncle, nice shoes." I turned and laughed. "Thanks, they're brand new." He nodded seriously and said, "They look fast." Then he showed me his own teeny red sneakers with lightning bolts on the sides. Mine are fast too. he said proudly. I smiled and replied, I bet they are. Don't ever stop running, kid. He laughed and ran off, leaving me standing there grinning like a fool. When I got home, I took off the shoes and looked at them. They weren't shiny anymore. A bit of dust on the sides, a small scratch near the heel. But they had already walked through laughter, memories, and quiet thoughts. They had already started their story. Next to them, on the floor, were my old shoes, tired, silent, and full of history. For a moment, I thought about how life moves in circles. We start fresh, we wear things down, we move forward again, not to forget the past, but to carry it in a new way. I picked up the old pair, wiped the dust gently, and put them back in the closet, not to throw away but to rest. They had done their job. And now, it was time for the new ones to take me somewhere else. Thank you for listening to my story today. Maybe you also have something old, a book, a shirt, or a pair of shoes that reminds you of who you used to be. Ow. Don't throw it away too quickly. Let it rest. And when you're ready, start walking again in new shoes, but with the same heart. See you next time for another warm and true story on Daily English Stories and Podcasts. Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to Daily English Stories and Podcasts. I'm so happy you're here with me today. Today I want to share a story about a simple day I spent with my friend. Nothing really special happened, but sometimes the quiet days turn out to be the ones we remember the most. I woke up a little later than usual that Saturday. The sunlight was already bright, but the room felt cool and calm. I stretched slowly, grabbed a glass of water, and opened my window. The air outside was fresh, and the neighborhood was unusually quiet. I wasn't planning to go anywhere. My plan for the day was simple. Stay home, clean a bit, maybe watch something, maybe cook something. I thought it would be a completely ordinary day. Then, around 9 in the morning, my phone buzzed. It was my friend Min. He wrote, "Are you free? Let's go out for a bit." I looked at the message for a moment and smiled. Min and I don't meet very often, maybe once every few weeks, but whenever we do, it always feels natural. There's no pressure, no awkwardness, no complicated conversations, just simple friendship. I replied, "I'm free. Where do you want to go?" He sent back, "The cafe near the river. I'll wait there." So, I changed my clothes and headed out. The cafe was small and quiet, with a few tables placed outside under big umbrellas. When I arrived, Min was already there, sitting with a glass of iced tea. He raised his hand and waved. "I ordered your drink already. Hope that's okay?" "It's perfect," I said, taking a seat. For a few minutes, we just talked about simple things, how work had been, how the weather felt nice, what we planned to do the next week. Nothing deep, nothing heavy. But then Min leaned back in his chair and looked a bit more serious. "I think I've been pushing myself too hard lately," he said. "Kinda guessed," I replied. "You haven't been online much." He nodded slowly. "I just needed a slow day with someone familiar." I didn't say anything for a moment. I just smiled and said, "Well, you texted the right person." He laughed quietly, and for a second, the stress on his face seemed to fade away. After we finished our drinks, we decided to walk along the river. We didn't set a destination, we just walked. The river looked calm, and a light breeze made the water ripple gently. Beside the walkway, flowers were blooming in small patches. People jogged past us. Cyclists rode by, and children played near the trees. The whole scene felt so peaceful. We talked about our childhood for a while, how weekends used to feel longer, how we played outside until it got dark, how we didn't worry about anything real. Min told me he missed those simple days. You know, he said, sometimes I feel older than I actually am. I feel that too, I replied. As we kept walking, we passed a small shop selling snacks, toys, and colorful kites. Min stopped and stared at them. You know what? He said. Let's fly a kite. I haven't done that in years. I laughed. You're serious? Absolutely, he said with a grin. He picked out 2 kites, one red, one blue, and handed me the blue one. You're flying this one. We walked to an open grassy area near the riverbank. There were a few families sitting on blankets and some teenagers taking photos. The wind wasn't strong, but it was just enough. I started running slowly, pulling the strings. At first, the kites didn't lift at all. Mine fell to the ground twice, and Min's got stuck around his ankle. We were laughing like children. Then finally, the wind caught both kites, and they lifted high into the air. Min shouted, "There, look at that," like he had just achieved something incredible. For a few minutes, we forgot everything else. We weren't adults with responsibilities. We were just 2 friends running around with cheap kites, enjoying a moment that felt small and big at the same time. When the wind calmed down, the kites drifted down slowly, and we sat on the grass to rest. That was ridiculous, Min said. I replied, but in a good way. We decided to get some food, so we walked to a nearby street stall. It was a small place with plastic tables, a smoky grill, and the smell of garlic everywhere.
Oh.
We ordered noodles and iced tea. While eating, Min told me about a project he wanted to start. He sounded excited, but also uncertain. What if it fails? He asked quietly. I took a second to think and said, maybe it will. But maybe it won't. And even if it does, failing isn't the worst thing. Not trying is. He didn't say anything right away. Then he nodded slowly, like something had clicked in his mind. That actually makes me feel better, he said. After lunch, we walked past a public basketball court. A few teenagers were playing casually. Min looked at me and said, "Do you want to play for a bit?" I knew we were both tired, but I shrugged and said, "Why not?" The teenagers let us join their shooting practice. Min missed almost every shot. I missed a lot too. But when I finally made one clean shot, Min shouted like it was a big victory. Played for maybe 15 minutes before we were too exhausted to continue. But we laughed the entire time. It wasn't about skill, it was just fun. When we left the court, we found a large tree nearby and sat under its shade. The breeze felt cool, and the sound of leaves rustling made everything feel peaceful. Min leaned back and said softly, "I really needed today." "I'm glad," I said. We didn't talk much after that. We didn't need to. Sometimes silence with the right person feels more comforting than a long conversation. Later in the afternoon, we walked together to the bus stop. Min's bus arrived quickly. Before stepping inside, he turned to me and said, "Thanks for today." "Really?" I smiled. Anytime, he waved from the window as the bus pulled away. Stood there for a moment, just watching the street. The day hadn't been planned at all, but it felt so full. When I got home, I opened the window again. The evening light was soft, and everything felt quiet. I lay on my bed for a while, just thinking about the day. It reminded me that friendship doesn't need grand events or big plans. Sometimes all you need is a simple message, a walk, a cheap kite, and someone who listens. Thank you for listening to today's story. I hope you also have someone to share simple, warm days with. Take care, and I'll see you in the next episode. Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to Daily English Stories and Podcasts. I'm happy you're here with me today. Today I want to share a simple story about my little garden. It's not a big garden, and it doesn't have anything special that would impress anyone. But it has become one of the places I love the most in my home, and it all started from a morning when I didn't plan to do anything at all. I remember waking up earlier than usual that day. The light coming through the curtain was soft, and the room felt calm in a way that made me want to stay still for a few minutes. I got out of bed slowly, made a cup of warm tea, and opened the back door to let some fresh air in. The moment I stepped outside, I saw the messy corner behind my house, the same messy corner I had ignored for months. There were old boxes stacked against the wall, a broken chair, dusty shelves, and several things I had forgotten I even owned. Every time I walked past that corner, I told myself I would clean it someday, but someday never came till that morning. Maybe it was the peaceful air, maybe it was the sunlight, or maybe I was simply in the right mood. But I suddenly felt tired of seeing the same mess every day. Without thinking too much, I put my tea down, grabbed a broom, and started cleaning. I moved the old boxes, threw away broken items, wiped the shelves, washed the floor, and rearranged everything that was still useful. It took almost 2 hours, and by the time I finished, sweat ran down my back and my arms were tired. But the space looked completely different. It was clean, open, and surprisingly bright. I stood there catching my breath, and that was when a simple idea came to me. Maybe I could grow a few plants here? Later that afternoon, I went to a small plant shop near my house. The shop was tiny, but full of green pots placed on wooden shelves. I didn't know much about plants, so I asked the shop owner which ones were easy to take care of. She pointed at a few simple choices herbs, small flowers, and 2 tiny green plants that didn't need too much attention. I bought them without thinking too much and carried them home carefully. When I placed the plants in the clean corner behind my house, I felt a little proud. The space used to be full of dust and forgotten things, but now it looked alive in a simple way. I watered the plants gently and stepped back to look at them again. Somehow, watching them standing quietly there made the whole place feel different. The next morning, I visited the garden again, not because I planned to, but because I felt curious. I wanted to see how the plants looked in the morning light. The air was still cool, and the leaves had small drops of water on them. I touched the soil gently, moved one pot to a brighter spot, and stayed there for a few minutes. I didn't do anything important, but those small actions made me feel calm. Without noticing it, checking my little garden became part of my morning routine. Day by day, I started to notice small changes. The leaves became greener, the flowers opened a little wider, and one morning, I noticed a tiny new bud growing at the end of a stem. It was such a small detail, but it made me smile. I realized that taking care of plants doesn't require much. It's just a bit of water, a little sunlight, and a few minutes of attention every day. The plants didn't grow fast, but they grew steadily, and watching them made my mornings feel warm. My favorite time in the garden was the late afternoon. When the sun was lower, the light fell gently on the pots, and the heat of the day began to fade. Sometimes I brought a small chair outside, sat in the corner, and drank iced tea. Other times, I just stood there in silence, listening to the quiet sounds around me. No cars, no phone notifications, no noise, just a small open space and a few green pots. That quietness felt like something I had been missing for a long time. Of course, the garden also had difficult days. One morning, I noticed that one of my plants had yellow leaves. I had watered it too much the day before, thinking more water would help it grow faster. Instead, I almost damaged it. I felt worried, and even though it was just a small plant, I didn't want to lose it. I moved it to a drier place, replaced some of the soil, and carefully checked it every day afterward. Slowly, the leaves began to look healthier again. That small recovery made me feel surprisingly relieved. It taught me that plants grow at their own pace. I just needed to be patient and pay attention. A few weeks later, I went back to the same plant shop. I promised myself I would buy only one new plant, just something small to fill an empty corner of the garden. But when I looked around, I saw too many beautiful and simple plants I ended up buying for. A tiny cactus, a mint plant, a small pot of white flowers, and a fern with soft green leaves. Carrying them home, I felt like I was carrying little pieces of peace. When I added them to the garden, the space looked much more complete. The different shades of green made the corner look bright and alive. I spent almost an hour arranging the pots until they looked balanced. When I finished, I stepped back and stared at the garden again. It wasn't perfect, but it felt like a small world I had created with my own hands. One evening, after a long and tiring day, I came home and didn't even take off my shoes. I walked straight to the garden. It was already getting dark, and the plants were quiet under the soft light from my window. I stood there for a while, breathing slowly, the tired feeling in my chest softened. My mind felt clearer, and I realized something very simple. This tiny garden had become my place to rest, my place to slow down, my place to breathe. It didn't matter that the space was small. It didn't matter that the plants were simple. It didn't matter that I wasn't a skilled gardener. What mattered was how the garden made me feel, calm, steady, and connected to something peaceful. Now, every day when I water the plants or move them into the sunlight, I feel like I'm doing something good, not just for the plants, but also for myself. My little garden grows slowly, and in a small way, I grow with it too. Thank you for listening to today's story. Hope you also find a small space in your life that brings you calm and comfort. Take care, and I'll see you in the next episode. Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to Daily English Stories and Podcasts. I'm really happy to be here with you again today. This morning, I want to tell you about something simple. Something I do almost every day, but it has slowly become one of the things that helps me start my day in the best way. It's my morning walk. I didn't always have this habit. For a long time, my mornings were rushed. I woke up, checked my phone, washed my face, got dressed, and started working right away. Everything felt fast, a little messy, and sometimes stressful. My head was full of thoughts even before the day began. But things changed one day in early spring. I woke up earlier than usual, and when I looked out the window, the sky was bright and clear. The air felt cool even though the sun was slowly rising. Something about that morning made me want to step outside for a few minutes. I didn't plan anything special. I just wanted some fresh air. Put on a light jacket, slipped into my shoes, and walked out of the house. The street was quiet. There were no cars, no loud voices, no busy sounds. I took a slow step, then another, and something felt different. Maybe it was the quietness, or maybe I just needed a break. But for the first time in a long while, I felt calm. I turned left and walked toward a small road near my home. I had walked past that road many times before, but I never really looked at it. That morning, I noticed everything. The sidewalk had small cracks that I never cared about. Some houses had tiny pots of plants in front of their doors. A woman was sweeping the ground in front of her shop. She looked up, smiled at me, and I smiled back. It felt like a warm way to start the day. After a few minutes, I reached a small park. It wasn't anything special, just a few trees, a bench, and a short path that curved around the grass. But something about it felt peaceful. I walked slowly along the path. The sun touched the tops of the leaves, and I could hear birds somewhere above me. There was a soft breeze that made the trees move a little. Nothing dramatic, nothing exciting, just simple moments that made me feel comfortable. I didn't stay long, maybe 10 minutes, but when I walked back home, I felt different. My mind felt clearer. My steps felt lighter. For the rest of that day, everything seemed easier. The next morning, I did the same thing. And then the next morning after that, slowly, without even thinking about it, my morning walk became part of my routine. Every morning felt a little different. Some days the air was cool, other days it was warm. Sometimes the sky was bright, sometimes cloudy. But walking always made me feel steady, like I was giving myself a small gift before the day started. One morning, something interesting happened. As I walked past the same corner store, the woman who usually swept the ground waved at me. She told me, "You walk early every day." I laughed and said, "Yes, it helps me feel awake." We talked for a minute. She said she opened her shop at 6 a.m. every day and liked seeing the quiet street before customers arrived. It was a short conversation, but it made the walk feel more familiar, like the neighborhood was slowly becoming a part of me in a new way. Another morning, I saw an old man sitting on a bench in the park. He held a small radio in his hand and listened to soft music. He didn't look at me, but something about him looked peaceful. He sat with his back straight, his hands relaxed, his eyes looking at the ground like he was deep in thought. The next day he wasn't there, but 2 days later he was. I didn't talk to him, but seeing him there made me feel like I was in tea, the only one who enjoyed the quietness of the early morning. My favorite memory happened on a day when the weather was slightly colder than usual. I wore a thicker jacket and kept my hands in my pockets. As I walked, I saw a young girl riding her bicycle slowly along the park path. She wasn't going fast. She looked relaxed, as if she just wanted to enjoy the cool morning air. She noticed me and lifted her hand to wave. I waved back. It was such a simple moment, but it made the morning feel warm even though the air was cold. Some mornings were different. There were days when I didn't feel like walking. Days when my body felt tired, or when my mind was full of things to do. But every time I chose to walk anyway, I felt better afterward. Even a short walk, just 5 or 10 minutes, helped me breathe more slowly. It helped me step away from screens, messages, tasks, and expectations. It helped me feel present again. Walking didn't solve all my problems, but it helped me begin the day without rushing. It reminded me that not everything has to be fast. Not everything has to be loud or busy. Some things can be simple, slow, and steady, and still meaningful. One morning, I decided to walk a little longer than usual. Instead of stopping at the park, I kept going until I reached a quiet street with tall trees on both sides. The sunlight came through the branches and made small spots of light on the ground. I watched the light move as the wind touched the leaves. I stood there for a moment, not thinking about anything, just breathing, just being there. It made me realize something important. I didn't start walking to exercise. I didn't do it to be productive. I didn't do it for any big purpose. I just wanted a peaceful moment before the day started. And somehow, it became a way to take care of myself. Now, when my alarm rings in the morning, I don't reach for my phone immediately. I sit up, stretch my arms, and prepare for a short walk. Even when I know my day will be busy, I still try to walk for at least a few minutes. Because even a few minutes can change how the whole day feels. Some mornings I walk fast. Some mornings I walk slowly. Sometimes I listen to the sounds of the street. Sometimes I listen to my own footsteps. But every morning I walk with the same feeling. The feeling that I'm giving myself a calm beginning. This simple habit has changed the way I see my mornings. They no longer feel rushed, feel purposeful, gentle, and steady. And I realize that I don't need anything big to feel this way. It's just a pair of shoes, a quiet street, and a few minutes of fresh air. Thank you so much for listening to today's story. I hope you also find a small habit that helps you start your day with calmness and clarity. Take care, and I'll see you in the next episode. Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to Daily English Stories and Podcasts. I'm really happy to have you here with me again today. Tonight, I want to tell you about something simple, a quiet night at home, and how I learned to end my day in a peaceful way. For a long time, my nights were nothing special. I finished work, ate dinner, scrolled through my phone, and went to bed when I felt tired. But even when I lay down, my mind was still full of thoughts. Things I didn't finish, things I needed to do tomorrow, conversations I replayed in my head, and worries that stayed with me. It often took me a long time to fall asleep. But one night things changed. That day had been long and tiring. I had a lot of work to finish, and I felt like I was running from one task to another. When evening came, my shoulders felt heavy and my eyes were sore from looking at screens. I ate a simple dinner and sat down on my bed. I didn't turn on the TV. I didn't open my phone. I just sat there for a moment. The room was quiet, wasn't completely dark. The small lamp near my bed gave the room a soft, warm light. I took a deep breath and felt something I hadn't felt in a while, a sense of stillness. I lay down on my back and looked at the ceiling, listened to the small sounds around the house, the refrigerator humming, a dog barking far away, a motorcycle passing slowly on the street. None of the sounds were loud, just existed quietly, like part of the night. Then something simple happened. I realized I didn't want to rush my night anymore. I didn't want to fall asleep without feeling calm first. I wanted to end my day gently, not with stress, not with unfinished thoughts, but with a quiet moment for myself. So I sat back up and turned off the main light. The room became darker, but the small lamp still glowed softly. I opened my window just a little. Cool air slowly entered the room. I could smell something faint, maybe flowers from a neighbor's garden, maybe just the smell of night air, but it felt pleasant. I sat there quietly. I didn't do anything special. I didn't meditate or read. I just breathed slowly and felt my body relax. That was the first night I learned how to say goodnight to myself. The next evening, I did it again. and then again. Little by little, it became my way of ending the day. Some nights were different. There were nights when I was too tired. There were nights when my mind felt too busy to calm down. But every time I chose even a short moment of quietness, it made a difference. One night after a long day of work, I made myself a cup of warm tea. Chamomile tea, not because I believed it would magically make me sleep better, but because holding something warm made me feel safe and steady. I sat by the window and looked outside. The street was almost empty. Only a few streetlights were on, and their yellow light touched the sidewalks gently. I didn't know where it came from or where it was going, but something about its slow steps made me smile. It reminded me that the world moves at its own pace, and I didn't need to rush all the time. Another night, it rained. It's not heavy rain, just a soft and steady one. I lay in bed and listened to the raindrops hitting the window. I didn't think about anything important. I didn't try to solve any problems. I just listened. The sound of rain made the whole room feel peaceful, as if the night itself was breathing slowly. There was a night when the power went out for a few minutes. The room went completely dark. At first, I felt uncomfortable. No noises, no lights, nothing familiar. But after a moment, I realized it wasn't scary. It was just quiet. I could hear my own breathing very clearly. When the lights came back on, I understood something important. Sometimes we avoid quietness because it feels unfamiliar. But quietness can also be a safe place. My favorite night happened unexpectedly. I had finished dinner and was doing small chores, washing dishes, wiping the table, putting things away. Everything felt normal. But when I walked into my room, I felt a wave of calmness. The room was clean. The bed was neatly arranged. The lamp gave off a soft light. The window was half open, letting in cool air. Everything felt simple and gentle. I sat on my bed and looked at the small objects around the room. A book I hadn't finished, a glass of water on the desk, a sweater lying on the chair. These were normal things, but somehow they felt comforting that night. Maybe because I was paying attention, something I didn't often do at the end of the day. I whispered quietly, "Good night," even though nobody was there to hear it. It felt strange, but also warm. That night, I fell asleep quickly. Now, every evening, I try to end my day with intention. Not with noise, not with rushing, but with calm. Some nights I drink warm tea. Some nights I stretch my arms and back slowly. Some nights I open the window just a little and breathe in the cool air. Some nights I lie down and listen to the sounds outside, and some nights I do nothing at all. I just sit quietly in the soft glow of the lamp. But every night I say goodnight to myself in some way. It's a small thing, but small things can change the way we feel. I've learned that nights don't have to be filled with screens, noise, or stress. They can be gentle. They can be slow. It can be a moment to care for ourselves, not in a big dramatic way, but in a simple, steady, real way. Now, when I turn off the light and close my eyes, I don't think about the whole world at once. I just think about the quietness of the night. I focus on my breathing. I let the day end softly, and I let myself rest. Thank you so much for spending this evening with me. I hope your night is gentle, calm, and warm. Sleep well, take care, and I'll see you in the next episode.